My name is Rachel and you're watching the Rachelistic channel. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back. Things look a little bit different, but yeah, we're back. So today we're talking about hyperlexia. So this is something that I heard a little bit about and I thought it sounded kind of like something I experienced. So I decided to do some research on it so I could find out if I have hyperlexia. So I did the research and I'm here to share what I learned about hyperlexia. So let's just get right into it. So first, let's start off with the basic definition of hyperlexia. So hyperlexia is an advanced and unexpected reading skills in children beyond their chronological age. So the basic definition is like when children can read like way higher than what their age is. So there are 4 features that kind of define hyperlexia. So the first is that it always happens with a co-occurring neurodevelopmental disorder. So most of the time that's autism. Most cases they find of hyperlexia are with autistic children, but it can also happen with other neurodevelopmental disorders. So some other ones that they've seen it with are ADHD, sensory processing disorder, OCD, Tourette's syndrome, and dyspraxia. So the second feature is that they have advanced reading skills relative to their comprehension skills or intelligence. So basically their reading skills are a lot higher compared to their comprehension or intelligence levels. So basically they're reading at a really high level, but they don't always really understand what they're reading, or it just takes them longer to understand what they're reading. Like they may have to read it over and over again a few times before they can really process it and understand what it is that they're actually reading. So the third feature is that they have an early acquisition of reading skills without any explicit teaching. So that basically just means that they learn how to read or write without anyone really like sitting them down and like teaching them how to read or write. Like they kind of just learn by themselves. And then so the fourth feature is having a strong orientation towards reading material. So that could be like having like reading or writing or numbers or fonts, anything that has to do with like letters and reading and stuff. That could be a special interest, but it doesn't always have to be that. Like it could just be a preference, like a strong preference towards like reading and writing and stuff like that. Since like it doesn't always happen with just autism, like it can be with ADHD or OCD or Tourette's or something like that. So like not every single one of these neurodevelopmental disorders has a special interest or a focus interest, so it doesn't have to be that. It can just be like a preference towards reading, like you just prefer reading over watching TV or playing with toys or something like that. I hope that makes sense. Cool. So yeah, so those are the 4 features of hyperlexia. So when I was doing my research on hyperlexia, I saw a website in like an article or something that talked about 3 types of hyperlexia, but after reading into it more, it didn't really make any sense to me, first of all, and I don't think it's a part of the main discussion on hyperlexia really anymore. The most recent thing that I read on hyperlexia was talking about the 4 features of hyperlexia. It wasn't talking about 3 different types. So yeah, but I thought I would share them with you because I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because I just thought it just didn't make any sense. So the first type of hyperlexia that they talked about was it's just hyperlexia 1, and that is describing like a neurotypical child that reads early. They read like at a higher level than their age, and they understand everything that they're reading, and that is apparently hyperlexia 1. To me, that's not really like hyperlexia, it's just like precocious reading, I guess, or just like early reading or advanced reading. Like if you're neurotypical, if you're like a neurotypical child and you can read like way above your age level, I don't think that really counts as hyperlexia. And I think like now hyperlexia is just reserved for like when that happens with a child who has a neurodevelopmental disorder, not a neurotypical child, because it's different when it happens with a neurotypical child versus a neurodivergent child. So there should be two different terms for it because it's not really the same. So the next one is hyperlexia 2, and that describes an autistic child who reads early. They can read like way above their age level, but their comprehension skills are lower. And usually these children have letters or numbers as a special interest. So that can look like arranging and rearranging letters all the time, or like writing letters over and over again, something like that. So that was hyperlexia 2. And then there's hyperlexia 3, which is the one that makes the least amount of sense to me. So this is when an autistic-like child reads early, which I don't really know what that means, but it's basically the same as hyperlexia 2 in that they read early, they read higher, they read like way above their age level, but their comprehension is lower than that, and they have like a strong interest or like a special interest, I guess, in like numbers and letters and stuff. But apparently the thing that separates them two is that their autistic-like behaviors fade over time, which that doesn't make sense. That's the part that when I read that, I was like, that sounds sketchy. I don't know about that. So in one of the articles that I read about this that was describing these autistic-like children more in depth, it was saying that it was just not it. But anyways, so basically from what I gathered from that article is that the only reason that they're autistic-like but they're not autistic is because they were social and affectionate, or like they made good eye contact. Which, just because somebody is social or affectionate or makes good eye contact doesn't mean that they can't be autistic, first of all. And then also, when they're talking about how their autistic-like behaviors fade over time, that just sounds like camouflaging or like masking to me. They said that it fades away over time either by themselves, which just sounds like masking to me, or through like intervention. And like one of the examples they gave was like a kid went through ABA, and so then their autistic behaviors went away, which I don't think that means that they're not autistic. Just because somebody had like an intervention thing and now they're not doing the things that are autistic behaviors anymore doesn't mean that they're not autistic. Like, yeah, so that's why none of that made any sense to me. I only really saw these like 3 types of hyperlexia or whatever in like 2 articles, so I don't think that it is a part of the main discussion on hyperlexia. I think it was maybe like more of like an older thought or something about hyperlexia, but now it's just more focused on the 4 features, and nobody is talking about these autistic-like kids. Like, no, that's like not a thing. I just thought that it was crazy and didn't make any sense, so that's why I wanted to share it, but yeah. Anyways, so moving on, just as a kind of like overview, these are some signs of like hyperlexia that you might have seen in yourself maybe when you were a child, or maybe you see them in yourself now, or maybe you see them in your kid. I don't know. depending on who's watching this. But here are some signs of hyperlexia. So one is having an intense or obsessive interest in letters or numbers or writing or reading, or just having a really strong preference towards those things. Yeah, it could be like having a special interest in these things, or just really like just preferring to read all the time over doing other things, or writing all the time, or I don't know, anything to do with numbers or letters. Another sign is having difficulty with your reading comprehension. So you may be able to read something like perfectly fine, like you know all the words, you know how to say all the words, you know how to read it, you have no trouble reading it, but when it comes to actually understanding what the text is saying, that's where you come into problems. It may take you longer, you may have to reread it or over a few times. So yeah, that could be a sign of hyperlexia. So another sign is that you learn by reading. So basically I mean, it is what it is. You learn best by reading over anything else. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. One other sign of hyperlexia is that you have a slower auditory processing time. So that just means that it takes you longer to understand or process like spoken language. So that can look like you saying like huh or like what, just asking people to repeat themselves a lot when they're talking to you or asking you questions or something. Or it can also look like you saying I don't know all the time to whatever question people ask you, because you just need more time to like think about the question, so your immediate response is I don't know. Yeah, that's me. If you have quite a few of these signs of hyperlexia, then maybe you should look into it more, because that might be you. So one other thing I wanted to say about hyperlexia is that a lot of the information is about children, but that doesn't mean that you like grow out of it. I think it's just because like it's more, the traits I guess are more relevant I guess when you're a child. Like for example learning how to read without being explicitly taught, like that's only something that really applies when you're a child. Yeah, basically the traits for hyperlexia I guess just kind of look different as an adult, and they're not really as like seen as a big deal as if you were a kid, I guess, which is why most of it is about children, but I don't think it doesn't just go away. So some of the things that will stay with you if you are hyperlexic is like learning by reading. Like that's something that will stay with you forever. Like you're not gonna grow out of learning by reading. Like that's not how that works. Like you will always learn by reading as your main way of learning. And then like your reading comprehension being like there being a gap between your reading level and your reading comprehension, that'll most likely always be there. Some articles I read talked about how the reading comprehension gap will kind of close over time, because as you grow older you'll learn more words and you learn more of what things mean, and so your reading comprehension will obviously get better and closer to your reading level, but I don't know if it will ever like fully close. And I remembered what I wanted to say is that having like a reading, like your reading level being higher than your age level or whatever, it doesn't really apply when you're an adult, which is another feature of hyperlexia. But yeah, that doesn't apply when you're an adult because nobody looks at your reading level as an adult. But yeah, and then another thing that will stick with you is like having a slower auditory processing time. Like, I don't know if that changes with like intervention, or if you can get like help for that to like make it faster. I don't know. I didn't really look into that, but I don't know. As far as I know, that's something that will probably stay with you for the rest of your life. You just, I guess, just have to learn ways to work around it. So basically, hyperlexia, it doesn't just go away. it'll stay with you. If you had it as a kid, you'll still have it as an adult. But it just kind of looks different. And speaking about it looking different, from my research, from what I gathered, hyperlexia kind of seems like a spectrum to me, kind of like the autism spectrum, how everybody kind of has the same traits but they look different in everybody. I feel like that's the same as hyperlexia. Like they'll all have, if you have hyperlexia, then you will have like those 4 defining features, but it'll look different depending on the person. If you meet one hyperlexic person, I wouldn't expect that everybody would be like that one person. I feel like it would be slightly different, but the same traits, but just looks different in each person. So yeah, it's like a spectrum. So that's basically everything that I learned about hyperlexia. And so now, the moment of truth. Am I hyperlexic? Do I have hyperlexia? I don't really know how you're supposed to say it. But from what I learned and I looked at, I think that I might have it. I think so. It's not a 100% yes. It's like I'm like 75% sure. I did take an online quiz that I saw if I was hyperlexic. It said that I was like moderate. I had like moderate to high traits or something of hyperlexia, so the quiz surely seemed to think that I was, but I'm still not 100% convinced yet. I think I need to do more research on it. Just going through like the 4 features and how that relates to me. The first one, I'm autistic, I have ADHD. So yeah, those are the co-occurring neurodevelopmental disorders, I guess. For the second one, learning how to read without being explicitly taught. As far as I know, nobody taught me how to read. I know that I learned how to read early and fast and quickly, but like I don't remember anyone teaching me how to read or anything like that. Like I just know that I knew how to read. I remember I asked my mom once, like, how did I learn how to read, or like who taught me, like how did I end up reading so fast? And she couldn't answer my question. She didn't give me an answer. She was like, I don't know. Maybe you were just listening in when I was teaching you reading with your sister or something. Like, I don't know. Like, she didn't really have an answer. So, as far as I know, nobody really taught me how to read. I just started reading. So, for the third feature of, like, having a higher reading level than your age, and that being different from your reading comprehension level. So, for me, I definitely had a higher reading level than my age, but it wasn't like super drastic. And like this is a thing that makes me kind of doubt if I really am hyperlexic or not, or if I have hyperlexia or not. Just because like I was reading like about like 3 years above my age level. So when I was in kindergarten, I was reading at a grade 3 level. So like, it's not, like, that big of a difference, in my opinion. Like, it's not like I was in kindergarten and reading at, like, a grade 8 level. Like, that's, like, a really big gap. But for me, it was, like, it wasn't really that big. So, that's why I kind of doubt it a little bit if I am hyperlexic, because I was an advanced reader, but it's not like I was, like, that. Like, I wasn't, like, super advanced. So, I don't know. Like, there was no, like, criteria of, like, how advanced somebody had to be hyperlexic. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that it counts, but at the same time, I'm like, does it though? Does it? So, I don't know. What do you guys think? And then, so for the fourth feature, which was having, like, a strong orientation towards reading material, yeah, that was definitely me. I always loved reading. I always loved books. I always loved going to the library and taking out books, reading books all the time. Like, that was me. I was like the bookworm, I guess. I definitely always always had a strong preference or orientation towards reading for like a good amount of my life. Like I was like always reading. Like I always had a book with me. There were even times where I would literally watch TV and read at the same time, which I don't know if that's a hyperlexia thing or just an ADHD thing, but it was definitely something that I did. So yeah. So those are the reasons, I guess, why I think I may be hyperlexic, but I'm not 100% convinced yet, so I think I just need to do more research and learn more about people who like know for sure that they're hyperlexic. So then maybe I can like compare my experiences with their experiences. So that is everything about hyperlexia, I guess, for today's video. If you liked it and you learned something new, then please hit that like button so that more people can learn about hyperlexia. If you have anything that you'd like to add about hyperlexia, maybe you want to share about your experience if you have hyperlexia, or if you just want to say something, I don't know, then comment it down below. And finally, if you like my videos, if you like watching my videos, then please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when I post my next video. And as always, stay ritualistic, or whatever your name is istic, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!